Welcome. I'm Karina Larson, and I'm the Data Documentation and Training Coordinator in IT for the University of Maine System. I'm here with Rachel Grunhout, Director of Institutional Data Management, who created my position in order to enhance the data capabilities within the University of Maine System. Rachel works primarily on leading UMS data governance and also contributing to enterprise data projects. Together, and with collaborators throughout the University of Maine's 7 campuses and many functional areas, we've created over 1,000 pages of data documentation in less than 3 years. You likely understand the importance of documenting your data work and sharing the knowledge you've learned. We're here to help you conceptualize your documentation holistically as part of a larger structure. We'll tell you how to choose the right stakeholders for what you're documenting, help you look at your available tools in new ways, and get the word out about your amazing new resources. Good documentation is hard. It is a conscious choice that needs to be made and encouraged among all members of a team. It can be overwhelming when you think of all that data and all of the processes that should be documented. It requires thought, planning, and time allotted for regular action, as well as a long-term commitment that can seem relentless to maintain. So you may ask, why bother? The advantages are compelling. Documentation, especially good documentation, is a flexible tool which can be used to increase the accuracy of, and by extension, the trust in your data. Having the ins and outs of your data and processes documented increases the speed by which deliverables are launched. And having many authors and users of your documentation encourages collaboration and fosters transparency. All of this saves time and money, not to mention the hassle of responding to the same questions over and over. Clearly, if you're here today, you are already believers in documentation. Let's take a look at the processes by which our documentation was created at the University of Maine System. It started with a vision. Your vision can be outlined by answering some questions. First, what is the question or problem you're trying to address? Our big picture was the fact that working in our institutional data felt like trying to tame the Wild West. Getting a handle on our data was a very big idea. Big ideas can and should be broken down into smaller bites. We needed to organize tables and reports for everyone to reference, define our data terms, and document the caveats that are inherent in our processes. The documentation needed to be open and easily accessible for everyone at all levels of data literacy and provide one-stop shopping for all their data needs. The structure came next. How are we to get all of this information into one place in a format that made sense? After much thought and discussion, we divided the user needs into different data elements: reports that were created for specific functional areas, tables that are used in those reports, definitions of the most common data elements and terms, and training materials and resources available for all aspects of accessing our data. We then determined that the lowest common denominator for each of those was that these elements of our institutional data were all present in 3 databases: student data, financials, and human resources. This structure works extremely well with our data, and we were able to transfer this structure to other areas of data documentation, such as our data governance website. Committing time to deep thought and discussion about your structure can create lasting benefits and efficiencies. After the structure and framework was completed, it was time to focus on the details required by our audience. Who's this documentation for? Is it for one or many different audiences, or one audience at different levels of experience with institutional data? Our audience was the latter. We wanted to reach users at different levels of the broad institutional data audience, from those who enter data to those who maintain data to back-end developers and even administrators of our data systems. We wanted our documentation structure to make navigational sense for end users, be easy to develop collaboratively, and be easy to expand deeper, not wider. It was also important that the structure contained placeholders for information that could be documented as reports or tables or data issues came to light in our team's daily work, and that there was consistency throughout all of the pages that made it possible to easily teach others how to use ready-made templates to complete a document. As time passed, our documentation grew. As the documentation grew, it became increasingly useful to those creating it, and they were more apt to add new documentation and maintain the existing for their benefit.
All of this work is powered by a few select tools. The software packages we use are by no means the only ones that will do the job well. When we started creating our comprehensive data documentation space, we evaluated tools by making a list of the ones we already had at our disposal, the needs we had for our documentation system, and the guiding principles we had for our documentation. While many different tools can be used to meet the needs of documenting data, a few evaluation principles can help you choose amongst those available at your institution. As you select software for your documentation work, you may identify gaps where additional, specialized tools may be needed in order to create a fully functional data documentation space that meets all of the needs of your institution. Some of the principles we found to be important when evaluating tools are its ease of use. We wanted to ensure that our tools were easily navigable, and for those who were willing to engage in collaborative documentation together with us, also easy to learn and work in. Its features. Although we didn't look for the most feature-rich tool, we instead looked for the right balance of helpful features within a tool that is virtually self-explanatory for new users. One feature we do rate as highly functional and desirable is the capacity to integrate with other tools. This is a feature that enhances our UMS data documentation considerably. Its availability. A public website proved to be our best bet for ensuring that all users could access our data documentation from anywhere at any time. A public website is also always up to date. As soon as one of us makes a modification to any aspect of our documentation, that change is immediately available to all of our consumers, unlike systems where PDFs and other published documents are circulated within an organization. While our website can be printed, we encourage our users to bookmark pages and visit them anytime they need to consult any aspect of documentation instead of printing or saving a static copy of one of our web pages. It's versioning. While our documentation is immediately available upon update, we do have a version history. If we need to consult prior copies of information or need to revert to prior versions of any documentation pages, we can do so with ease. Finally, from both a technical and functional perspective, we needed accessible tools that we could publish publicly with confidence that we could meet all users' needs. Is it accessible to everyone who needs it, including those with disabilities? We don't have the time to fully cover accessibility here, but it is a foundational element in software evaluation. Regardless of the tools you use, there are many resources available to address accessibility. Make sure to check with your accessibility experts at your institution for guidance. Our consideration of these factors led us to choose Confluence, which was available within our IT organization as our core front-facing software, with many other tools and supporting roles. Most notably, we added the Data Cookbook 2 years ago to house data definitions and specifications. This specialized software complements the wide array of general tools that we use to create web pages, graphics, process documents, and more. While our tools serve us well, examining the principles we've outlined here may lead you to other software solutions that are better suited to your organization's needs. Several types of stakeholders are important to consider when designing your documentation approach and initiating collaboration. In our organization, we use a centralized documentation strategy where the initial structure, format, and material are thought out by the data teams, and the information within the documentation is contributed by a large number of individuals. These contributors come from many areas of the institution, from our database architecture colleagues to our data stewards. Our goal was to provide documentation that works for everyone. Newcomers find the documentation easily understandable, while employees with a long history of the data find additional information or easier ways to present the information to newer colleagues. In this way, we serve our stakeholders with the format we chose for our documentation, which allows users to go deeper and deeper as desired. Two key groups of stakeholders to pay special attention to are your subject matter experts and your stakeholder partners. When subject matter experts are consulted throughout your documentation efforts, you raise the accuracy of your documentation as well as the trust that all stakeholders have in your documentation. Stakeholder partners may also be subject matter experts, but not necessarily so. Stakeholder partners are the individuals who are looking for the information themselves. These individuals have a stake in finding the correct information and ensuring that it is documented once it is found so that they do not need to find it again in the future, nor will their colleagues need to research it. Instead, anyone who needs it can find it in the organization wide documentation. Working with these two groups of stakeholders, you can produce vast amounts of documentation that are not only accurate, but that are also relevant. If someone needs to know something about a data element, chances are that other colleagues need that information too.
Now that you've done all of this hard work, you'll want to let your audience know about your amazing resources, and you'll want them to return again and again to use them. They'll want to hear about new additions to your documentation and be brought to different areas upon occasion to broaden their understanding of how they can use your documentation to make their work easier. Although many of us are not marketing professionals, there are some simple techniques we can all use that are extremely useful to make your work shine. Marketing it is something that you should be thinking about at the very beginning of your project. The structure and framework should all have the same look and feel, with the same fonts, heading structure, color use, and ideally, a logo. Make sure to use cascading headings that decrease in order from larger to smaller, and consider creating templates that include them. Add a graphic or logo or heading to every document that clearly indicates where it is from. The examples in this video are largely from Atlassian Confluence, but these same marketing ideals work with any type of word processing or content management system. As time passes and your framework fills with useful information, it becomes important to share it. The reasons for sharing are both altruistic and selfish. Altruistic in that you're offering helpful resources and assistance to others who would benefit from your knowledge base, and selfish in the sense that you can request assistance from those users of your documentation, increasing the number of collaborators who can assist in updating and expanding the documentation. There are a few major considerations before you share. First, is there enough high-quality information documented to be helpful? You don't want people visiting your site and not finding anything useful, never to return again. Second, is the data classified for the audience to which you're publishing? For example, is there sensitive information that requires permission or that should not be made public? Third, what is the best way to get the word out? Think about creating announcement groups or use groups that already exist for your audience. Or try new ways like social media accounts. Use the same look and feel with announcements, posts, and emails that you use in your documents. And finally, what is the vehicle you will utilize to gather feedback from your users? Can they easily send you comments and questions? Is it requested in a way that is open and responsive? Although you might not think structure and marketing are important if your documentation is only for your team, consider the perspective of a new person joining your team. They will quickly become familiar with your documentation if it all uses the same templates and structure. And consider the speed with which you can find the information you need if you know where it all lives and where on each page to look. With this approach, no one person owns the documentation. It is crowdsourced and open. In our case, the information we documented grew fastest for financials data. At the time, a major project with the financials department prompted the documentation of many tables and reports in the financials database. It was not long before there was enough useful information in that functional area that it made sense they were the first with whom we shared. We began by requesting invitations to departmental meetings with finance folks. We gave website tours to show them how to navigate through the information to find what they needed. We created a video tour of the website that anyone could access to better understand our documentation. We continued in that way for some time, talking to new groups as the documentation grew. As new elements were documented, they were posted to the relevant group. Our documentation efforts were closely aligned with our UMS data governance program, And we gave regular updates on issue resolutions and the resultant documentation, both verbally and in writing, by attending various functional area meetings and sending out memos. We've created institutional data and data governance videos, which we post on our YouTube channel for all to see. Although we are ever conscious of sending out too many communications to the same people, we do attempt to use every different communication channel at our disposal.
Identifying the right tools for the job, designing a structure and platform that is transparent and accessible, working with stakeholders, and finding the answers that are crucial to fostering a culture of data informed decision making are all critical elements that, together, have bolstered our documentation quality and the extent to which our documentation is a relied upon resource throughout our institution. Our documentation has been widely incorporated into the daily work of many institutional data users and into University of Maine System data projects, and the documentation continues to grow in both breadth and depth. As mentioned earlier, documentation needs constant updating and maintenance. Alongside that core work, we continue to delve deeper into the data in an effort to continuously expand our knowledge of the who, what, when, where, why, and how of our data. We are also beginning to document new data marts as our data integration team builds them, and new Power BI reports as our data visualization analyst creates them. Finally, we are working with data governance to bring our myriad data points into alignment across our 7 institutions. All of these efforts provide transparency into our data and help us build trust in our data, both of which improve the data culture within the organization. Ultimately, data documentation work is a crucial foundational element for any modern organization looking to leverage its data in service to all institutional goals and constituents. Our UMS data documentation work has served our stakeholders and institutions well, and we wish you all the best in your documentation journeys. Please reach out at any time if you'd like to bounce ideas off us or explore documentation questions further. And thank you for joining us today.